Good morning and welcome to our couch in our spare room. Happy Palm Sunday as well. Today, going to take a few moments to think about this question. What were you doing when? So there have been moments in history where something so significant has happened that after the fact people have been saying, what were you doing when that happened? So 9/11. What were you doing when you heard about 9/11? Or Harry and Meghan getting married. What were you doing when that happened? Might be VE Day. What were you doing? Take that splitting up. JFK assassination. All these things. Moments in history where people thought, wow, that's quite big. That's a big moment. I wouldn't, and people will remember that, I'm sure. So then we ask the question, what were you doing when? And I'd like to ask that question or consider that question in light of Palm Sunday. So what we had is all these people had rushed out onto the streets to kind of gather on that kind of one of that first Palm Sunday, as it was, as people were entering into Jerusalem, as Jesus was entering into Jerusalem. The interesting thing actually is they had all gathered together, and because they'd all been kind of called out of where they were and gathered into or gathered onto this road, in some sense they were church. So the word church comes from a Greek word, ecclesia, which means called out. So these people have been called out of where they were, gathered at the side of the road. Church gathered to see Jesus. And it's interesting to consider a crowd-based story now when we can't meet to talk about being called out when actually we are being specifically called in. And what I want to think about is, so what we, in that moment, if you were to ask people, or shortly after the fact, what were you doing when? What were you doing when Jesus was entering into Jerusalem? As things were about to be turned on their head, as there was about to be a new way of doing, being, thinking, living. What were you doing when? Now, there'll be some people really proudly stood alongside Jesus, walking in with him, the disciples, really pleased to be there. There have been some people just cutting down palm branches, waving them, people laying their coats on the floor, really excited to just worship, worship, worship. I'm just going to worship our way through this. This is amazing. There have been some people who maybe were a little bit cynical, maybe looking at those people waving and laying coats and thinking, just calm yourselves down. There might have been people who were looking with almost contempt at Jesus. Now, who does he think he is? There may be people, cynics, looking at the excited kind of people with the palms and the coats, thinking, I wonder who they think he is, almost with a cynical smirk. Maybe there are people who just really disappointed, like Judas Iscariot. You know, they wanted Jesus to be a certain way and he wasn't, and so now he's just not who I hoped he would be. He isn't who I thought he was. There are people there I expect as well who are real gatherers, saying, come and meet, come and see who this Jesus is. If you kind of think about it now, like I've never thought about it before, but like when Leeds United get promoted and win their league, I can hear Adam Argyle cheering in the back of my mind. I can hear him cheering that. But when that happens, they'll publish probably the route. The bus is going to take this route. And people will line the streets and they'll get there early and they'll get a good spot so they can see the bus coming past. But that wasn't the case with Jesus. Nobody had said, this is the route he's going to follow. Nobody had said, oh, by the way, at this time he'll be going past, this olive tree or whatever it was. Nobody had done that, which meant that certain people would have seen Jesus and gone, this is important. I need to go and tell someone else. I need to gather people. I need to grow this church, invite people to this church to see Jesus. Gatherers all around. And as I kind of consider that, and now kind of consider us as church, and we are being church, even though we're not called together, we're still called out to live a life that's different, called out because of all Jesus did for us on the cross and when he smashed out the tomb. All those things, we are called out to live and be a different way. And COVID's happened. So we are physically separated, but still strongly connected. So my question is, as people look back at this moment and ask the question, what were you doing when? I wonder as we consider our relationship with Jesus and our role as church, what are we doing when? What will be our response to that? Will we be those people who, like the disciples, proudly alongside Jesus, saying, I'm with him. Through all of this, I'm with him. Will we be those who sort of cynically look and go, I don't know why people are lining up with Jesus? Will we be people who are disappointed? I didn't think Jesus would be like this. I'm seeing hurt and pain and suffering. I'm feeling that myself and fear. I'm disappointed. He's not who I thought he would be. Maybe you'll be the gatherer. Maybe being saying to people, come along, come along, come along. Come and meet this Jesus. He's here. You can meet him. Or perhaps, saddest of all, you'll be one of those groups who, in both stories, now and in Palm Sunday, will be the ones who just don't get involved. You miss the boat. There's something more important. On both occasions, saying there's something way more important than meeting Jesus, than getting to know him, than walking alongside him. So that's just the question I'd like you to consider. Whereabouts, or what will your response be when people say, okay, COVID, you're a Christian, you're part of the church. What were you doing when? What would our response be? Wouldn't it be incredible if we can all say we were the gatherers? We were the ones bringing people in, saying, come join this church, virtual though it may be. Come join, come see, come meet this Jesus who can transform everything. The world's about to change. Everything's going to change. So as it changes, walk with Jesus. God bless.